First, I must ask you, because this isn't your first time doing this particular thing in a film, but ripping flesh off the face. Is it a fear of yours that you love to explore cinematically, or as a horror fan yourself, is that something that you find aesthetically and practically satisfying?
I definitely am gonna have to say it's definitely satisfying. I always ask myself, what's the one thing that's gonna gross out my mom? And she's got a weird thing with like
Yeah.
skin and just skincare. It's something in our house that's like, no, mija, you gotta wash your face every morning, every night, all this stuff. So I'm always like scaring her with weird face stuff. So it's a strange obsession of mine. But with this one in particular, it just really suit the folklore and the mythology of the Nahuales because it's like an inner animal that all the indigenous have or
Mhm.
everybody in the world has. So rather than just becoming that, I just kind of lean more on the werewolf side of things that actually your skin can come right off.
Right.
Uh, so I had to go for it. I had to go for it, and it was a lot of fun on this one.
Well, I hope you make it a directorial signature and find some way to fit it into your filmography going forward. But it's really funny to me that you brought up your mom watching this or trying to find things to gross out your mom, because that's one of my favorite things that you post about on social media is your family watching arguably disturbing movie scenes with you. Most recently, I believe you shared a video of you and your mom watching the birthing scene in Prometheus.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Hey, listen, she picked that movie 100%. She's like, oh, I love space films.
Yeah, yeah,
I just didn't tell her. I'm like, yeah, Michael Fassbender's fantastic in that movie. She had no clue what she was in for.
yeah. So at this point, when she's watching one of your films, is she like, "Well, that's our Gigi, like, that's just how she is, and we expect no less."
Yeah, yeah, she's become to that now. It definitely for a long time was, with her eyes closed, being like, "I'm so proud of you," and she has no idea what's playing. And for a very long time, early in my career, or even not even like in film school, she definitely would ask me like, "Ooh, don't you want to lean towards kids films or fantasy movies?" She definitely was concerned. Where did I go wrong? But now she gets through it. She rolls her eyes and she says exactly what you said. That's Gigi. So
Good,
yeah.
good. Do you feel more, I guess, creatively confident fitting a piece in a puzzle and challenge yourself to make it flow between different stories, or do you prefer creating the whole puzzle yourself?
That's a great question. I think definitely in anthologies, it's been the challenge of how am I going to fit in? But at the same time, you have the opportunity to just fully stand out. In
Mhm.
this case, with Satanic Hispanics, I've done a bunch of anthologies, to be honest, a bunch. And this was the first time that was really neat that we actually, all of us filmmakers, worked together. And
Mm.
we had the connective wraparound segment of Mike Mendes early on. So we all kind of knew what he was going to film, and he filmed first, which was super helpful. So it was actually Mike telling us a little bit of clues or elements or a prop that he's going to incorporate to introduce each one.
Mhm.
And that kind of and I thought that was really really neat, really well organized because it was more like we knew what we were going for rather than in post production being like, okay, now we got to figure out the order. Oh God, now we got to do this and that, like to try and make it a cohesive film. Because sometimes anthologies don't work if
Yeah.
there's not some sort of connection of some sort. If it's just a film back to back, it's we're just watching a block of short films. But
Yeah.
in this case, I actually really liked being told the puzzle ahead of time.
Mm.
And it was cool because while Mike was filming his, I didn't have a script yet because I was still, trying to get figuring that out. And he just called and said, "You need a little capsule of blood. Just figure it out." I'm like, okay. So it was just kind of like trying to incorporate it. But at the end of the day, you have one tiny element. The rest, you have the freedom to create anything, and that's what makes it really neat.
Oh, that's really cool. There was also, I
Hmm.
don't know if I just this could not be the case at all, but there was maybe some things in the production design that created a connection between things. if I remember correctly, the windows and the different colored tints that they have is similar to what's in the first chapter, I believe.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Like I actually saw a few clips of not clips, but I saw pictures
Mm,
of Demian's, whoops, this almost fell, of Demian's location early on. And I was not gonna film mine in the location by that door where it has all those colorful windows, right?
yeah.
But as soon as I saw his location post, I'm like, hey, never mind. You know, it's like it was just neat. We all just kept a very busy WhatsApp throughout each other's shoots the
Mm,
whole time. So it was so nice to just all of us be talking all the time. Uh, just to have a little Easter eggs, like you say. I
yeah,
think that's what makes this anthology really special. You can tell that we were all actually talking.
right.
Maybe not like, knowing everything, but definitely staying in touch throughout the whole process and cheering for each other.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
It's evident that you're a horror fan, and one of my favorite things that happen in horror films is how, or just watching it, is how filmmakers choose to do, like, build dread or just have something in the background. So we have a sequence within your segment where someone is running, but we see them out of focus in the background, but there's just like this feeling of paralysis or something going on, like when you see that, because
Mhm.
music kind of makes that feeling too. But with your own consumption of horror films, do you like to, like, watch commentaries to see how other people do it, or do you try to distance
100%.
yourself from it to kind of come up with your own magic tricks for something like that?
That's such a great question. I honestly, I went to film school for the love of being a fan of movies in
Mhm,
general. And I think it's so important as a filmmaker not to always put on your technical hat and like try to point out, oh, cool, filmmaking at the end, you're telling stories. So with everything, I really try to immerse myself like a fan. I get my popcorn and I have to watch it like a fan, so
mm,
I understand the sensation that the scenes try to create. One thing I do technically before starting any movie, or even after watching a fantastic movie, I always make playlists of
mhm,
score, of any score, from comedies to dramas to horror, just score. And
mhm,
I try to imagine scenes with already scores. So, for example, that scene in particular, if I'm listening to the score, I think I had a Sicario moment playing, and I could hear that gong, like the sudden drums or the sudden drones. And I really try to imagine just my surroundings of how that would feel in a scene. So creating that, like I like being more music driven, and I think horror in general can be very music driven, or even just
yeah,
ambient feeling. Doesn't have to be like musical,
yeah,
but that's how I try to approach these things. After being inspired by someone else, I always try to apply music and score before
mhm.
approaching any scene, and feel that sensation of goosebumps, the jump scare, um, the change of beat. Yeah.
Well, great. It works for you. So,
Thank you.
yeah, we're just about out of time, but I wanted to wrap up on some, maybe a fun question. But sometimes in anthology narratives, such as, I don't know, From Beyond the Grave, like, there's cursed objects at the center. The traveler in this film, the character that ties all these stories together, has relics, things that he collects. If I may
Mhm.
ask, what do you collect?
Oh, that's such a good question. I like you, Preston. You're cool. Um, if I was the traveler, man, I would probably, I think I would collect. I think I would love to collect the weapons.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Like if there is, I think I get so freaked out with just what people use for vengeance, for destruction, for all that. Like to me, it always scares me. I
Yeah.
almost feel like if I was in the movies of Conjuring and I had my room of all the collectibles, I
Yeah.
would just collect all the weapons, just because that's It's almost like that's what somebody had in their hands, whether it's a piece of wood or an actual weird ass freaking like vintage weapon of some sort that's Viking or something. Like
Yeah.
that's what was in your hands. And it's just like what we are capable of doing with an object. I, to me, like I would collect that. I
Yeah.
would do that and
Yeah.
have a whole room of it.
Yeah.
So,
With
yeah.
the hammer from this film prominently displayed in your
Oh God, 100%. I would make sure it's at the entrance of the house. Hey, mom, welcome. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We all know Alejandro will keep it, but uh,
Definitely.
I would definitely try to keep that away from me. So.